You're listening to episode 171 of the Super League Pod. Coming up, we debate Denver, we go deep on the limited match action, we figure out just what Jake Connor is up to, and we take a moment to celebrate and mourn the short but poignant life of Ivan and his brave mutant cousins. Get strapped in for an emotional SLP, your views on your podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome along to episode 171 of the Super League Pod. Thanks for joining us again. And this week I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Alan Cale. You might know him as Shoddy and Mungo off of the old Twitter. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I've just been having some technical difficulties that you know about, that the peeking behind the fourth wall and all of those things. So if I seem a little bit more tightly wound to start the show than I normally would do after a Wigan victory, it's because my computer's having a little mess around by itself here.
It's more like you were at half time rather than you were at full time. You mean?
That's where we are. So hopefully,
yeah.
we'll have the same sort of feeling here, and it'll be fixed. So, Alan, how about, I suppose people will know you because you've been around the show since year one, haven't you? But you're a foundation listener. But
proud foundation listener, absolutely.
But do you want to tell everyone a bit more about yourself for those who don't know you, who you support, how you got into rugby league, that sort of stuff?
So I'm a Bradford Bulls fan, so just keeping up the quota in Tom's absence. Been a fan since kind of mid-90s, kind of just before the glory days, so certainly not a glory seeker. Although it was a happy coincidence that the form picked up in my kind of second and third year.
You still call yourself a Bradford fan, so no one can accuse you of being a glory supporter, can they?
Not anymore. No. I think they left somewhere between the end of 2014 and now, really. And attendances would tell you that. So followed them through thick and thin, and then even thinner, and so thin it barely exists. So still sticking with them, even though I've had more than the odd wobble with various ownerships and that kind of thing. But yeah, still call myself a fan.
That's good to hear.
It's I suppose my love of rugby league started before that, kind of watching Challenge Cup on the BBC and kind of wanting to get down to games occasionally, and it was Dad and I kind of went down, and it was just a kind of a real family affair. He'd been to games in the 70s, although he went to Leeds games at that time. Although we don't talk about that.
He wasn't a Bulls fan himself. He was not really affiliated.
He wasn't really. Well, as I said, he went to some games at Headingley. He went to the Challenge Cup finals in the 70s. Kind of took my mum to some of those games. But yeah, it was entirely random that we ended up as Bradford fans. We kind of lived halfway between Leeds and Bradford. Bradford happened to be playing at home that weekend, so that's that. It really is as simple as that. I could have been a loiner, but
do you feel any sense of regret now? I mean, you weren't doing 10 years ago, but
I don't know. You
can't think.
You can't. You don't. You eventually your team's your team, innit? Through as I said, through thick and thin, and you just gotta stick with it. I mean, yeah. Couldn't imagine myself in blue and yellow. Not a chance in heck. So no, it's red, amber, and black all the way.
Brilliant. It's good to hear. Well, we don't have a Bulls game to talk about, like we don't have loads of other games to talk about, but you will have plenty of views on the week's action as we move along. We're going to start with a little bit of feedback and then a couple of shout outs and that sort of thing. The biggest feedback thing was about the sort of stereo sound on last week's show and the volume inconsistencies with particularly the music sounding a lot louder. I'm trying to work on those things. I am no sound technician, and for whatever reason, how we used to do it with me and Tom, the recording was a lot louder, and now I actually have to learn to do a few more tricks to try and level things out. So I am working on that, guys. You shouldn't have the stereo sound problem this week. I have changed the way we record the Skype call to a mono recording, so hopefully that should work. I've tested it a couple of times, and the sound came through just as good. Just you people who sit in your office listening to the show can do so with your one headphone and not have to change any settings on your phone this week, hopefully. So, a couple of other things from last week. Sarah Mackenzie at Scoots28Mac, who we will be joined by on the show next week, which is really exciting. She's a Hull FC fan, and she answered the question I posed, Alan, about Jez Litton, and she said, regarding Jez Litton, we have no idea why he isn't playing. Bradford at times seems scared of putting young kids in. So, yeah, I mean, I guess we just don't know then, do we?
No, I mean, they're doing all right. I mean, I guess it's going back. I mean, Noble always had this thing. I have to laugh. I know we're skipping forward slightly to some of the comments he was making at the Toronto game, but he made some spurious comment about that they had a designed play where the ball used to hit the floor.
Yeah.
And I said the ball used to hit the floor a fair amount, but I'd be damned if I thought it was a design play. But anyway, Noble always had that problem where he'd rotate the same type of players around, and he wouldn't give young players a chance.
And Bradford kind of played in that era, didn't he?
Well, exactly. He's probably learned a fair amount from being in the Bradford setup for all those years. So that might be part of it. I mean,
he certainly would have given him a bit of a buzz off the bench when things started to turn last week. When Warrington got we'll get onto that game, but when Warrington got the rocket up them of the red card, they seemed to speed up a lot, and Jez Litton would have been a counter to that because he's rapid out of dummy half, and he would have given him something else to have to think about. So it is a surprise that is not in the reckoning at the moment. I haven't heard anything of an injury, so that's an interesting one. But like you say, maybe it's the reputation that he's sort of brought through from being involved in a successful side that also didn't often bring through young players. I mean, how many young players came through in the entire time Noble was there?
Well, this was the thing.
Prices and Fielden, and that's about it.
Yeah, well, you look at, the players that kind of slipped through the net. I mean, Ryan Atkins did. I mean, whether you're a big fan of his or not, he's become an established Super League player. He never found a spot.
Brett Ferris.
Ferris kind of, yeah. We gave him a year, but I mean, yeah, he was one. The other centre was the one that was coming to mind, and it's gone from my head now. But yeah,
Chris Bridge.
Chris Bridge, thank you.
Yeah,
another Warrington centre. But yeah, it was. He just never. He gave him the odd game. I think I saw Ryan Atkins play once for us, Challenge Cup at Featherstone, and he looked all right. But we're only a kid, and he never got a shot. And we signed established, because we had a bit of cash rolling around. We signed established players and high profile players, and youngsters never got a look in. So we were always an older side.
So you think Bradford's maybe doing that the same at Hull? It's certainly an interesting theory. I wonder what the Hull fans think of that, because I don't think they'd necessarily be pleased with that if that's the approach. Bob Phillips, he's the only person who told us how he did in the quiz last week, and he got none out of 4.
I can share that. I think you were incredibly tough on Tim. And I'm just setting myself up for there's a low bar.
Well, I'm really worried because one of my computer problems is I can't get the quiz to load up. So the quiz I've written for you, I can't get to load up at the moment. So we'll see if that's sorted out by the end of the show.
That virus I sent across must have done the trick. It's brilliant, yeah. But no, yeah. Well, we'll see. You never know. You might find it before now.
I think the quiz I designed was right in your wheelhouse. But Dave Cantrell also got in touch on the back of last week's show at Dr. Hideous on Twitter. He said, "You're right, Tim. I did already know about bar TV sports. It's going to be dead handy when scholars matches clash with ladies county cricket or elephant polo." And for the next time you set a pub quiz, the current elephant polo world champions are Scotland.
Of course
David
they are.
Informed us. I mean, this is
who
right.
But who didn't know that though? I mean, that's just everybody knows that.
Apparently, what happened is they rocked up to some event and said, "Oh, well, if you've got a spare elephant, we'll give it a go." And some Scottish guys on holiday or something. And in the end, they ended up winning. That's the story that Dave Cantrell tells. So that's certainly an interesting one. And then we finally finish off this shortened feedback and shout out section with probably the most, I mean, one of the toughest watches we've experienced over the weekend, wasn't it?
I was in tears. It was very emotional.
So Rob has said, I hope Icicle Watch is going to get a mention. It has been a slow week. I mean, obviously we've had a lot of serious weather, and it's had a big effect on a lot of us being able to have games being called off, being able to get people who travel long distances. Particularly, I know a few people up in Scotland who come to Wigan games who weren't able to travel, and there's been some serious disruption. But in amongst that, there's been a little bit of fun and irreverence. But what that ended up meaning was on Sunday's Great Thaw. We had to watch the decline of, was it called Ivan or Ivor?
It's Ivan. How can you forget?
And his mutant cousins. Well, I kind of joined Icicle Watch late, so I only got the huge monster one, not Ivan's original streak of 18 inches. So if anyone is a little bit more interested in what we're talking about, and I know Alan's been deeply affected by this, so I might want to.
I'm deeply affected. I just like to say R.I.P. Ivan. And we're all thinking of you at this tough time, and Rob, you'll be fine. Best wishes to your family, and we'll pull through it together.
And if anyone wonders what we're on about, if you search #IcicleWatch on Twitter, you'll get to follow through the journey that we've all been on in the last week there. So I don't know if you've got anything more to add on that.
No, just to say Icicle Watch and things like that is the reason that Twitter exists. So that's all I've got to say about that.
They are the positive side of the social media machine. Okay, so we'll leave that there, and we will take a look at last week's news from around the world of rugby league. Right, so this is the news, and the news is sponsored by littlewarden.com. If you have a website, then visit littlewarden.com and see what they can do to help you. They can help you with domain expiration checks, redirects, all that other sort of important background web stuff that they'll make simple for you so your website keeps working. Little Warden, monitoring the tedious. And I know that they seem to do things right, because the superleaguepod.com domain, where you can read our blogs, is organised by the people behind littlewarden.com. So there you go. So we're going to start with the first news story, probably the biggest news story of the week, even though it is nearly a week old, Alan. And I'll go through this one, then I'll get your thoughts after reading out, because we've had loads of feedback on this. So it's going to probably be the main part of our show, I'd say, this week. So England will play New Zealand in Colorado this summer for the first of 3 matches in the United States over the next 3 years. The match will be held at Mile High Stadium in Denver on Saturday the 23rd of June. It is hoped the game will raise the sport's profile, with the 2025 World Cup set to be staged in North America. This is the perfect opportunity to take 2 of the world's elite nations to a country that loves sport, said England coach Wayne Bennett. God, he's been chatty recently. Denver will be
I was just thinking that. I was thinking, I'm sorry, but this is never Wayne Bennett. He's like, yeah, all right.
Well, he went on to say, Denver will be a good fit for the game. They have popular American football, basketball, baseball, ice hockey and football sides. So it seems there is a real appetite for sporting events and to experience something new in this city. New Zealand Rugby League chairman Ryan Edwards said, "We have worked hard with the Rugby Football League and the Rugby League International Federation on this, agreeing to play a New Zealand-England test in the United States each year for the next 3 years." I should have vetted that quote before. It's pretty boring, isn't it? But Wakey White has got in touch. Great to hear from Wakey White. He says, "Good idea. USA is a sports mad and Union hasn't really got a foothold yet. Lay on an expansive game with some big hits and maybe a little biff, and who knows what seeds could be planted." Our friend Lee Whitnell got in touch and said, "Good game to take to an American audience. We're pretty evenly matched, so it should be close. Plenty of skillful, exciting players on show, mixed with some big hitters too. It'll be interesting to see how they promote it. The launch video is a bit wet." Kevin Blackburn said, if they really want to get a foothold in the US market, then this is a great idea. Just hope they give it